Tech Comp. So as you know, hopefully by now, we have transitioned into the all online format now. So our state has gone completely online. We are no longer meeting face to face. So my goal and my recommendation for you as well is to get online every Monday and Wednesday as if you were attending class from 10 to 11:50. That way you keep your schedule, you keep your routine. Every Monday, Wednesday, I will upload a new video that will cover to the best of my ability what I would have talked about in class. So I will do a screen share so you can see my screen. I will read, I will go over some concepts. So I'm going to do everything as much as I possibly can as if I were in front of you in class. And then when you have questions for me, you can reach out to me via Remind. I gave you my cell phone number in a previous email, emailing, text, whatever, just so that we can try to get the second half of the semester successfully completed so that you all feel supported and the transition can be as smooth as possible, because I know this is very different than what we're used to. So with that being said, this is the video for Monday, March 16th, the first day that we were supposed to return from break, so at the beginning of week 9. And we're just gonna kind of hop right into everything so that we'll stay up with it. Okay, so first things first, initially you were going to turn in your Chapter 6 text sheet for homework today. You had that due over break, and a couple of you actually have already emailed it to me because you knew we were going online. So after thinking about it, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to collect it as homework. I'm not. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to go talk about most of the sections like I would have done in class, and then you can make corrections, and then you can submit it. And I will show you where you can submit it inside Blackboard. So we'll get to that here shortly. On March 16th, initially, the Writing Center was supposed to come in and talk to us. So I am going to just show you a couple of quick things about the Writing Center, because even though you cannot visit them physically on campus, they are still there for you online. They've always been there online, but now that's the only way you can access them now. So I'm going to do some screen sharing. So just give me 1 second, because you're going to see some weird screens. Bunch of screens are going to pop up, bunch of windows. There they are. Okay, so here's what I want to show you. If you are in MyStark State and you go under Academic Support, you will see the link to the Writing Center. This is just some really general information. Obviously now this does not apply to us because we are not physically on campus anymore. However, you can make writing appointments online, and you just do so by clicking on this link. It takes you to a login page where you will either have to log in or create an account. So I've already created an account, and so I'm just going to go ahead and log in, and it'll take you here. So this is like the schedule of those who are available online. As you can see, like online only, online only, online only. So let's say you are taking a class that you need assistance from the Writing Center on. You would go and you would look and see, okay, those white spaces indicate that someone is available on that particular day and time. So I would go and I would like click in there. This is my date and time. And I would just fill out my information and hit create an appointment. And you can upload your papers if you had them, something that you wanted them to look at in particular. Most writing online sessions are half hour, though I think you can also make them for an hour, and they'll also email you. And then it'll give you instructions on where to go once you do that. All of those sessions are on Blackboard. So you're already familiar with Blackboard somewhat from our class, but all of the online sessions from the Writing Center are on Blackboard. I also uploaded, so if we go back into our course, right here on the course content, I put their orientation video. It's about a 6.5-minute video, I think. So if you go right there, click play, it'll go over the features that you can expect to get from the Writing Center. It'll talk about the online Writing Center as well. So I wanted to give you that information so that you had that moving forward in case you needed them for anything. All right. Now, we left off before break talking about Chapter 6, Drawing Conclusions. This chapter wanted to talk and focus on what a logical conclusion is, and we looked a little bit at this before we left for break. So drawing conclusions is when you basically are making those educated guesses. In science, we would have called it a hypothesis. So you use facts, details, observations, whatever it might be, to come to a conclusion. So a conclusion, also sometimes called an inference, is something that is based on information that's provided. So it's not necessarily right there, but you use the clues, you use the hints that the author has given to come to that conclusion. And this acronym CLUES may be helpful. So let's say you're reading a paragraph, and we have practiced this before as well. A main idea is implied, and you have to come up with it in your own words. That's a form of drawing conclusions, of making inferences. So you use this acronym, check your comprehension. Do you know what the paragraph is talking about? What are the details supporting? What kind of facts are given? And when you come to your conclusion or your main idea or whatever it might be, are they supported by what's going on in the facts? And then how can you show that support? We talked a little bit about absolutes as well. So an absolute is something where it says all, everyone, no one, none. I used the example when we were in the classroom. Everyone in this room is a Stark State student. And at first, most of you are like, yeah. But then I was in the room, so we could not say everyone because I am not a Stark State student. So when authors, or you even as authors, use these kind of words, everyone, no one, always, you have to be very wary, because unless they can show proof, unless they say, we say these people and every one of them believes this way, they have to show proofs before they can use an absolute. So an example was, no one can afford the cost of college these days, whereas a safer way of saying that is no, not everyone can afford the cost of college. So we talked about some inferences. We use this example, if a woman said, if you were my husband, I would take poison. And the man says, madam, if you were my wife, I'd give it to you. That implies that there's really not a great relationship there. So that's the gist of drawing conclusions. I also have some examples we're going to look at before we get into our textbook and review what you hopefully, in theory, done for homework over Chapter 6. So we're going to take a look at a couple commercials and talk about how we actually make inferences all the time in our daily lives. We draw logical conclusions constantly. So I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit so it doesn't. Okay, so we're going to watch this and draw some inferences. So right here, a logical conclusion you can make is that while the parents are gifting him the refrigerator, he thinks the car is his gift. Right in here, what can we infer? Hopefully you're thinking and you're making the inference that, oh, this is actually this guy's car, that he's confused as to what's going on. All right, let's look at another one where a commercial is using inferences. Again, they're not coming right out and saying their message. They're implying it, and as a viewer, we are inferring. Little demented there at the end, but the producers and the owners of this company are trying to imply that their Tabasco sauce is so hot that if you were to eat it in a mosquito salad, it would be too hot for them to handle and they would blow up. So their implication, their logical conclusion that we can draw then is that this is really hot Tabasco sauce. All right, final one here. So, and then finally in this one, hopefully you could pick up on the fact that the dog was burying the cat. The cat was on the missing poster, so we can infer that the dog has done something to that, whether he's the one who killed it or he found it, I don't know. And then the owner was bribed because Doritos apparently are so good they will cover up a cat murder. So the implication there is Doritos are, really tasty. They'll lead you to do almost anything. So that's how we can see inferences being played out in media, in TV shows, movies, commercials do this all the time. Okay, the next thing I want to do is we're going to take a look at this paragraph here. And this is an example. We're going to, I think, look at two paragraphs. This is an example in which the main idea is implied, and we have to come to a logical inference on what the author is meaning here. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. The Compaq Computer Company once considered changing the press any key command on to press return key because its technical support center received numerous calls from people who couldn't find the any key. One particular Compaq customer called to complain that her brand new computer wouldn't work. She said that she had unpacked the unit, plugged it in, and then sat there for 20 minutes waiting for it to come on. When the tech support employee asked her what happened when she pressed the power switch, she asked, "What power switch?" An annoyed Dell called the company to say that his keyboard would not work after he cleaned it by soaking it in a tub filled with soapy water for a day. An exasperated caller to IBM claimed to be having trouble printing documents. He said his computer was telling him that it couldn't find printer. He reported that he had even turned the computer screen to face the printer, but his computer was still failing to see the printer. Another frustrated IBM customer called tech support after having trouble installing software. She put in the first disk, and that was okay. It said to put in the second disk, and I had some problems. When it said to put in the third disk, I couldn't even fit it in. She apparently did not realize that disk 1 must be removed before disk 2 can be inserted. The Canon company received a call from a woman claiming to have printer problems. The tech support employee asked her if she was running it under Windows. She replied, "No, my desk is next to the door, but that is a good point. The man sitting in the cubicle next to me is under a window, and his printer is working fine." So based on that paragraph that I just read, let's look at the options here. The main idea is not directly stated, which means the author has provided clues or hints, and as a reader, we have to come to a conclusion as to what is best supported. Is it that the Compaq Computer Company receives large numbers of customer complaints? That calls for technical support suggests that some people know very little about computers, or that computer companies cannot seem to make computers that are easy to use, and for that reason, technical support lines are constantly busy. So do you think about that? Which one of those seems to have the most support? A does say the Compaq Computer Company receives large numbers of customer complaints. Well, that's true, but it also talks about Dell, and it also talks about Canon, so that's really not our best choice. Calls for technical support suggest some people know very little about computers. That's what it sounds like if they're washing their keyboard. And then this isn't really supported. So our best choice here is B. The one that has the most type of support in the paragraph would be B. Okay, let's look at one more example, and then we will go into our textbook and start looking through our text sheet and also get the vocabulary from chapter 6. Number 2, the high-heeled shoes that are so much in fashion right now are actually terribly unhealthy for women's feet. They lift feet out of their natural position and shorten the Achilles tendons. They put damaging pressure on nerves and remove the feet's ability to stabilize the body and absorb the impact of heel strikes while walking. Therefore, women who regularly wear high heels often suffer from sprained ankles, arthritis, shin splints, bunions, toe deformities, and back pain. Uh-oh, I wear lots of heels. But the exact opposite type of shoe, the popular flip-flop or thongle, is also bad for feet. Because flip-flops are flat and soft, they offer no support or protection. They can also easily catch on things that cause the wearer to trip and fall. Even athletic shoes can sometimes be unhealthy for feet. According to foot specialists, some of them don't provide enough cushioning for people with high arches. Others don't provide enough arch support for people with flatter feet. Therefore, they can cause tearing of body tissues, bruises, and sprained ankles. So if I pause from this paragraph, I see that they talk about high heels, but then they also talk about flip-flops, and then they kind of finish talking about athletic shoes. So let's see which one is the best supported implication or logical conclusion we can make from that implied main idea. That shoes are actually bad for the human foot and we would all be better off going barefoot. I mean, it does say a lot of shoes are bad for us, but it doesn't really mention going barefoot. So let's wait on that one. Fashionable high-heeled shoes are bad for women's feet, but that doesn't stop women from wearing them. All right. But it doesn't just focus on high heels. Or C, several of today's most popular shoe styles are unhealthy for the feet. I like C for this for a couple of different reasons. First, we can rule out B. As I said, it doesn't just talk about high heels. It talks about 3 different kinds of shoes. So we can't just focus on one type there. And then A, as I mentioned, it didn't really work for that. So it'd be hard to choose that one. But C does have one of my favorite little cheat words there, several. It does a good job of summarizing that they're talking about multiple kinds of shoes and how they're not really good for our feet. So those are some examples in text of how we can make inferences. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to, keep me signed in. We're going to go ahead and take a look at our textbook. So if you have your chapter 6 sheet in front of you, now if you were not here or by some chance over break you lost it, if you go into our course in Blackboard, go to course content, scroll down to chapter 6. Here it is, chapter 6 text sheet. Here's the link. You just click on it. It's going to open up for you. I'm in Chrome, so it's going to go down here in the left-hand corner, and I just click on it, and boom, there it is. Sounds like a song from the 80s. Boom, there it is. Okay, so here's our chapter 6 text sheet. So again, if you were here on the Wednesday before we left for spring break, I did assign this to you for homework to complete over break, and I know multiple of you have already finished it because you've sent it to me in some sort of mail or picture attachment. Again, I've decided that I'm not going to take it for homework points. With us transitioning to all online, I just thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and just have you submit it one time for one set of points. So even though you've done it for homework already, you're going to go ahead and have a chance to correct it without me seeing your sheet first necessarily. Make those corrections, and then I'll show you how to eventually Dropbox it. We're not going to go over the entire sheet, probably just parts A and E really are the only ones we're going to go over the answers. I'll address parts B, C, and D, but you should have done those on your own anyway for homework. So that's the sheet that I'm going to be referring to when I'm pulling up pages of our textbook. So let me get back to our textbook. So as I'm like fidgeting around here, sorry about that. My mouse had a spastic moment. We had already taken a look, if you recall before break, at this picture saying how words often are able to be retrieved from photos. We're able, as that phrase goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And we said, these photos will make lots of implications and we can have inferences based on this photo. Some of the things that you guys said in class were, this man is homeless, this is a large city, he's poor. So very reasonable conclusions that we can draw from that. From there, we also took a look at this little graphic here on page 221, and we were able to look, true or false based on the information that was given and making sure that all the answers that we came to could be supported somehow based on the data that's provided in that particular table. So we did do a few practices before we left for break. So what I want to take a look at is over on page 222, and this chapter, recall, is our education and human social services. So that's why you're going to see a lot of social societal issues being talked about in these selections. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. I'm going to walk you through kind of like we would do in class. My hope is that even though I'm reading and doing the talking, you are also thinking and coming, staying along with me and anticipating answers so that that process is still going on. Even though I can't hear you, you are still engaging with me as we go. At least that's my hope. Okay, so page 221, practice 1. Our goal as we read this is to, obviously answer the questions, but also see what kind of conclusions we can draw based on the text. Teen pregnancy continues to be a serious issue in the United States. Pregnancies among teens between the ages of 15 and 19 are at nearly 1 million per year in the United States. This is the highest rate of all the developed countries in the world and twice the rate of Canada. Teen pregnancies are more common in dysfunctional families and low-income families. Having unplanned pregnancies increases the likelihood that the mother will not finish high school and will spend her life in poverty. Although the teens are physically mature enough to conceive, they do not yet have the emotional maturity to understand the difficult consequences of teen pregnancy. So what I would recommend at this point actually is if you want, go ahead and pause the video and look at the questions and answer them. Go through, finding the topic sentence, and answer true or false. Pause it, answer, play it back again, and then by that time, you'll hear me go through the answers and check to see how you did. All right, so the topic of this particular paragraph, oftentimes people will lean toward A, which is almost there, but we want to get a little bit more specific and go with B, teen pregnancies in the United States. So it's talking about teen pregnancies, and it's not necessarily talking about why they become pregnant or what happens to them. It's just about teen pregnancies in general. Number 2, what is the topic sentence of this paragraph? So if we look at our 4 choices, we know our topic is teen pregnancies, but 3 of them are really detailed. They're more supporting details than they are a main idea or general sentence that goes along with this. So A is our most general sentence there, that teen pregnancy continues to be a serious issue in the United States. It also happens to be the first sentence of the paragraph. All right, and then at the bottom, true or false, what can we say about these? Can we support them based on what is provided? All right, number 3. Fewer teens become pregnant in Canada than in the United States. Well, if we go back up in the paragraph, it says that there are 1 million per year in the United States, and it says it's the highest rate of all the developed countries in the world and twice the rate of Canada. So that would be false. Fewer teens, it would be true. Fewer teens become pregnant in Canada than in the U.S. because the U.S. has all these teens getting pregnant. It says we are twice the rate of what's going on in Canada. So number 3 is true. Fewer teens, in fact, do become pregnant than in the U.S. All right, number 4. All teens who become pregnant will spend their lives in poverty. Hopefully you see the issue with number 4. It does say that teen pregnancies are more likely to lead to poverty. However, the issue with this one is, sorry, the screen does not want to go. The issue is that word all. all. That is an absolute. So we would refrain from using those. If we would have gone along the lines of many teens, that would have been a safer statement and we could have supported that. But as it's written, number 4 is false. So number 3 was true, number 4 is false. Number 5, teen girls are more likely to drop out of high school if they have unplanned pregnancies. And that one is true. It doesn't say all teen girls or they will drop out of high school. It says they're more likely to. So it's a safe statement to make. Okay, let's go over to 223. We're going to read this and kind of go along the same lines. And on your text sheet, so if I'm going back to your text sheet, here's part A, page 223. So this is a chance to check your answers and then make any corrections as needed. All right. 2 out of 3 crimes committed are drug-related. The effects of drug abuse have also increased medical costs nationally, creating a burden on the economy. Because of drug abuse and drug marketing, the need for more law enforcement, both locally and federally, continues to increase. Drug users who can no longer work because of their addictions are more dependent upon social services than non-users. This has increased the need for additional social services. Courts are filled with drug-related cases, and the number of cases continues to rise yearly. As a result of drug abuse, the number of prisons and correction officers has grown significantly, but cannot keep up with the demand. Clearly, the effects of drug abuse have a major impact on our society. So I'm just going to go through these answers because since this is part of your homework, you should already have these kind of thought through and written down. So number 1, what is the topic? Often people lean toward A because it's talking about drug abuse, but we actually need to get a little bit more specific. It's talking about the effects of drug abuse. What effects does drug abuse have on society in particular? So number 1. Number 2, then, knowing that our topic is the effects of drug abuse, our topic sentence, main idea, is also D. Happens to be the last sentence of the paragraph, right up there, but it also is the only one that's really general, and it talks about specifically the effects of drug abuse. All right, so numbers 1 and 2 were D. All right, 3, 4, and 5, true or false? Can we come to the conclusion based on what's in the paragraph? Number 3, drug abuse is the fastest growing crime in the nation. Often people want to say true to this because the first line says 2 out of every 3 crimes committed are drug-related, but that does not say it's the fastest growing crime. So number 3 is false. We cannot say that based on the paragraph. Number 4, drug abuse has resulted in hiring and training more corrections officers. It does say that in the paragraph, that they are trying to, there's a need for more training and more hiring. So number 4 is true. And number 5, drug abuse had caused an increase in homelessness. We may think that makes sense, but it's not supported in the paragraph, so we cannot support that. So number 5 is false. So on part A of your text sheet, going back to here, we said number 1 and 2 were 3 false, 4 true, 5 false. So that's for your homework for your text sheet. All right, and then one more practice together before we move on in our text sheet and in our text. Practice 3, one more making logical inferences practice. The United States has the highest divorce rate in the world. I told you all of these readings are super uplifting, right? One of the reasons is that individualism is a trait of many Americans. This means that people are less connected to family members and more concerned with their own individual goals and happiness. Couples who marry young because of an unexpected pregnancy are the most likely to divorce. Another key factor in divorce is addiction to alcohol, drugs, or gambling. If one of the partners has an addiction, the marriage often becomes unstable. Also, if one or both marriage partners have a demanding or highly successful career, they face a higher risk for divorce. People who divorce are more likely to divorce again. For many reasons, divorce has become an acceptable course of action in American society. All right, our topic. What is the topic? And this is again where I would encourage you to go ahead and pause your video, answer your questions, and then play it, and you can hear if you were on the right track. So the topic of this particular paragraph is the reasons for divorce. Again, people sometimes go to B because it talks about getting divorced, but it's actually given us reasons for divorce. So number 1 is A, the reasons for divorce. Knowing that our topic is A, number 2, the topic sentence, D, for many reasons. It happens to be our last sentence of the paragraph, and it has one of my favorite type of cheat words, many. It's real general. For many reasons, divorce has become an acceptable course of action. So it's kind of telling us, there's a lot of reasons people divorce, and the rest of the paragraph fills that in for us. All right, true or false? Number 3, young couples who marry because of an unplanned pregnancy are at an increased risk for divorce. That is true. It says that. It doesn't say all will divorce, but it says they're at an increased risk. So that's a safe conclusion. Number 4, if a marriage partner is addicted to alcohol, the couple is more likely to divorce. Again, that's true. It states that right in the paragraph. It doesn't say they will, but it's more likely. So that's a way that we can support that statement. That is true. Number 5, many Americans are individualistic and focus more on their own happiness than on others. And that is stated in our paragraph as well. So that is true also. Okay, now we are going to look at our readings. We're not going to do the readings because as part of your homework, you were supposed to have read our 2 readings. So I'm going to go ahead and go to page 230 and get to our first reading because we're going to talk about the vocabulary. You would have read College Drinking Harmless Fun, which focused on kind of the effects of drinking as it particular to like the college population, specifically those who like live on campuses. So they're talking about more of like the 4-year college or university experience and the drinking that goes on and what campuses are trying to do to kind of curb and help the effects that college drinking has on a lot of students. So with that, you were supposed to be looking at part B, and on page 233, you were answering question 5, which asked you to draw a logical conclusion. And then on page 236, you were answering question 1 that says, what is the most powerful effect of drinking, in your opinion? So for number 1 on page 236, that really, you can't be wrong as long as you support it. So the article talked about lots of effects of drinking. So just make sure you support which effect was the most powerful to you and why. So that's what you were doing for part B. But what I want to do, because you already should have read it for homework, is talk about the vocabulary. We're talking about the vocabulary because initially, if we were meeting face-to-face, the quiz over this chapter would have been on this coming Wednesday, March 18th, with a partner. Obviously, that's not an option right now. So we will do something different, but I will talk to you about that on Wednesday's video. So I'm going to go over the vocabulary that you would have already read as you were going through this particular reading. And my screen is right there. If you want access to this, again, back in our course content under chapter 6, you'll see the study guide right there. You can download it. And then I will also upload my particular study guide after I upload this video. So you can have access to mine as well. I know sometimes some of you, if you have access to a printer, just the simple act of writing down the vocabulary words can help you understand them a little bit more. So let's talk about these words for a few minutes in this reading under college drinking. The word consumed in paragraph 2 means to eat or drink. So if I'm consuming alcohol, as they were talking about in this selection, I'm drinking alcohol. Or I could be consuming food. It also could be to be overwhelmed by something. So maybe you're just, right now, perfect example, a lot of us are consumed by anxiety. We're consumed by uncertainty. There's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot going on in our college that we're just overwhelmed by it. And that's kind of how you could be using that word consumed. The word vulnerable in paragraph 13, to be open to, susceptible. Again, how appropriate is this? They're talking about how people who are elderly, who are already compromised because they have something going on, maybe they have asthma or COPD or something along that, they're more vulnerable to this COVID-19 that's going around. They are susceptible. They're more open to. Excessive in paragraph 10 means more than necessary, an excessive amount of something. I know that I would not mind having an excessive amount of money. That would be a good thing, right? Now, if you had an excessive amount of stress, that's a bad thing. So it could be a good or bad thing, just means more than normal, more than necessary. Futile in paragraph 5, it's wasted. I love this example a student gave a few years ago. They said that trying to shovel your driveway with a spoon would be futile, right? That's wasted effort. If you have a bunch of snow in your driveway and you're using a spoon instead of like a snow shovel, that's ineffective. There's no time, there's no use in doing that. It's good. Massive in paragraph 15 means very large. In the story, they talk about like massive internal injuries. So very large, complete, involving many pieces. Paragraph 10, we see the word criteria, standards by which something is judged. For instance, like a project. So you have criteria. You have certain things you have to do or check off or complete in order to get an A. Or maybe there's certain criteria you have to get a job. That's criteria. Ineffective, paragraph 16. To me, ineffective and futile are great synonyms here. They both mean very similar things. Ineffective just doesn't have the positive results. It's wasted. It's not working. Obstruction in paragraph 7, something that blocks the way. It can be physical, like there is literally a barrier in the road. It's obstructing the road. I cannot drive. It can be mental. Maybe you are very conflicted or confused about something. It's an obstruction to your thinking process. It gets in the way of something. Consequences in paragraph 3, a result or outcome. So consequences we often think as a bad thing. Usually they are, but the consequence is just the result. So an action occurs, and the consequences of that action are whatever it happens afterward. So consequences are their action, and then the result is those consequences, the outcome. And then tolerance in paragraph 8, how much you can put up with. In the selection, they were talking about like zero tolerance policies, meaning they would put up with zero. If you got caught drinking, there was no second chances. So tolerance, how much you can put up with or how much you will allow to happen. All right. From there, you then were supposed to read the second reading, which was a little bit more uplifting, Where Wishes Come True, over on page 240. So this was about a man who was in the Holocaust. He was in a concentration camps. So Henry Landworth, he survived. Unfortunately, a lot of his family did not. And so he came to America to kind of get a fresh start. And then in the process, started this amazing program, kind of like Make-A-Wish Foundation. But he was able to kind of send kids who were having terminal diseases to kind of this camp area in Florida that would kind of make wishes come true. So it's called the Give Kids the World Village, and it really helps kind of with the kids who are struggling in their illness and helps grant those wishes. So for homework, you were reading that selection and you were completing part C. The questions you were answering were question number 9 on page 245. It wanted to know why Henry came to America. You were drawing a conclusion. And then on 247, you were answering question 5. And question 5 has to deal with your opinion on why does meaning prejudice against Jews, why does it still exist and what can we do to eliminate it? So that's what you were doing for part C. Okay, again, we're not going to read the article because for homework you already did. We're just going to talk about the vocabulary words. So the vocabulary words for that reading were on the screen in front of you. Entrepreneur in paragraph 1, someone who starts a business. So they are a business owner. They start a brand new business like Henry did with this Give the Kids the World village there that he created. We saw empathy in paragraph 13. Understanding how someone feels. It's not sympathy. It's not feeling sorry for someone. It is understanding how they feel. Like, I can put myself in your shoes. I get it. Contempt in paragraph 4 means you just do not like that person. You have no respect for them. You dislike them. You could go as far as saying hating them. Just really strong feelings of dislike. Fulfillment in paragraph 19 means you have accomplished something. So if you fulfilled your goals, that means you've reached your goals. You've completed them. Rancid in paragraph 5 is rotten. So something that is rotten, that maybe it's gone bad. Typhus in paragraph 5, it's kind of an odd one to throw in here, but they talk about typhus, something that Henry got when he was in the concentration camps. It is a deadly disease. Mortar in paragraph 8, cement, something that binds. Brick and mortar is a phrase that people use. So mortar is like a glue or a cement that holds things together. Endure in paragraph 8, to go through a difficult experience. Obviously the Holocaust, these people endured a lot. You may have had to endure something. You're enduring something right now, honestly. It's not as serious as the Holocaust, but all of us right now are enduring this time where there's panic, there's misinformation, there's a complete shift in the way that we are living and working and going to school right now. We're enduring it right now. We're bearing it. We're going through a difficult experience. So we are living some of these examples. Paragraph 12, to live, succeed, or do well is thrive. So a person can thrive. You can be doing really well in a class. You're thriving. You're succeeding. A plant can thrive. It's doing really well. So you can apply that to different circumstances. And then massacre in paragraph 9 is a mass killing. Of course, maybe one of the most famous would be the Holocaust itself. You know, a large group of people were killed. Okay. So from there, if we're back kind of looking at our text sheet as well as our textbook, you are completing part D, and I'll go to page 249 to just reiterate what you were doing. So on page 249, we have this interview with our high school chemistry teacher, because remember this is our Human and Social Services and Education chapter. The question on part D on the back of your text sheet, it says, Kim Walter gives advice to college students. Do you agree with that advice? Why or why not? So in your textbook, like toward the end here, there we go, kind of highlighted there. You are like the main part of that advice is right there where I highlighted. What advice would you give to college students? So you're reading that and then you're going to tell me, do you agree or disagree with that advice and why? Again, this is an opinion, so you cannot be wrong unless you don't support it at all. So make sure you support your opinion. All right. Finally, practicing our conclusions as well as wrap up our text sheet, we had part E, and you could make a choice here between page 254, 255, or 256. We're going to go over all three of them just in case, because you had a choice, so I want to make sure that we address all of them, and this is your chance again on part E to make some changes. If you got anything incorrect or need to rethink it, you can go ahead and do that now with me before you submit your chapter 6 text sheet. So the reason that these are cartoons is because cartoons often can convey implied main ideas. They can make implications and we can come to conclusions. So this little cartoon says these two sharks, you've got a little bit of thong caught between your front teeth. So it says, and we're not talking about underwear here, people. We're going to keep it clean. Thongs as in like the kind of flip-flops. So flip-flop that goes between your toes. Number 1, true or false? The sharks are eating thongs. False. The sharks aren't going around just eating shoes. That's not what the author is implying. One shark has eaten a swimmer who wore a thong. That is probably true. Like the kind of myth that sharks will go around eating people, and we know that people have been attacked by sharks. So it's more than likely that the shark probably ate a swimmer who wore a thong versus just eating shoes. So number 1 was false. Number 2 is true. Number 3, the artist implies that like people, sharks care about their appearance. Also true. You know, it's kind of like how if you see someone with something in their teeth, you're like, hey, you got something in your teeth. Same thing with these sharks. All right. Other cartoon on this page, we have this ship with aliens in the water and a shark fin. We're saved, we're saved. Number 1, the aliens from the spaceship that the shark has come to help them. Obviously true. They're saying, yay, someone's here to help us. Number 2, the aliens have been to Earth before and know about sharks. False. Clearly they don't know that the shark is probably about to eat them. So on page 254, you did false, true, 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 false. All right, page 255. We have a young woman and an older woman standing at a grave, and the older woman goes, poor old Stanley, he was only 3 months away from paying off his student loan. Uh-oh. Number 1, the man in the grave had been a college student at one time. Obviously, yes, he has student loans. So number 1 is true. Number 2, according to the cartoon, college loans are not difficult to pay back. False. Obviously, he died and he still didn't pay off his loans. So number 1, true. Number 2, false. Down at the bottom, we have a man standing on a table with what looks like a golf club and a broken window. And the woman said, I take it you didn't like my meatballs. Number 1, the man in the cartoon thinks his wife is a good cook. False. He obviously hit it out the window, so not a fan. False. 2, the cartoonist is implying that all meatballs are terrible. That's not what's going on here. So that is false. It's not all meatballs. Number 3, the meatballs that the man had on his plate resembled golf balls. That is true. It was probably hard and maybe not edible, so that is true. So on page 255, it went true, false, 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 true. All right, last one, 256. Here we had a paragraph. In the days of ancient Egypt, preserving the body after death was a religious practice that honored the dead. The wealthiest and most important Egyptians were cut open and their internal organs were placed in clay jars. The brain was removed either through the nostrils or through an incision in the back of the skull. The body was then packed in natron and salt. The mummy was then cleansed and bandaged while priests recited prayers and applied oils and perfumes. A gold or silver mask was sometimes placed over the face. The mummy was placed into a wooden coffin, which was put into a larger rectangular stone sarcophagus. The priest performed a formal ceremony for last rites, and the sarcophagus was laid to rest in its own tomb, which was sometimes a giant pyramid. All right, if you did this one, the topic of the passage is B, how ancient Egyptians preserved their dead, taking us through that process. Number 3, what is the topic sentence? So a way to summarize that paragraph would be A, that this was a religious practice that honored the dead. So it's talking about, that preservation process was in fact religious and it honored the dead. True or false, what can we conclude? Number 3, the ancient Egyptians show great respect for their dead. Yeah, true. I mean, they put them in these nice sarcophagus. They had ceremonies. That is true. Number 4, the ancient Egyptians were religious. Again, true. They had priests come and do this. That is true. And number 5, ancient Egyptians believed they needed their entire bodies. False, or else they wouldn't have taken out all their organs, so they didn't need their whole body. So on 256, it went B, A, true, true, false. Okay, so when you are done and ready for your Chapter 6 text sheet, I'm going to do this a couple ways. If you typed your answers, you can go back into course content under Chapter 6. Here is our Dropbox right here. So you want to make sure that you save files, save as your, it's not going to let me because it's uploaded right now, but you're going to save as your sheet into your desktop or your drive, whatever is accessible to you. And then when you get back into our area, here's our Dropbox. We click on it. We browse our computer, you find where you saved it, and you hit open. I'll go ahead and do that. And then submit. You know it's there because it pops up right there, and just hit submit. And I'll be able to see it electronically that way. Now, if you're not comfortable doing that, or maybe you hand wrote your answer, if you have a scanner, you can send it to me, or just take pictures for me. Take a picture of the front side and then take a picture of the back side and send them to me in attachments in an email. So those are your different options right now. Moving forward, what I would recommend, because we're going to have to do this from now on, let me go ahead and see you again. Okay, there we go. So what I would recommend from here on out is just getting that document up and typing your answers in and then submitting it electronically that way, unless you have access to a printer and you can print it out every time. I think that might be the easiest thing for you to do. So just to kind of cover my bases here, still got my lesson plans. I'm still going to use my little notebook. I'm still preparing as if I would see you every time. So today we talked about the Writing Center how helpful they can still be, even though you can't go see them on physical campus. You can still use them online. We also talked about inferences, making inferences, drawing logical conclusions, making sure that you're reading and understanding what you are reading or seeing in some cases, and then drawing conclusions based on that. We threw basically the entire text sheet because you already had that due for homework, and so we just kind of hit a couple of the pieces and you had a chance to correct them as needed. And we talked about your vocabulary, so your chapter 6 vocabulary, and as I mentioned, I will be uploading my chapter 6 completed study guide into Blackboard so that you can have access to that. The chapter 6 text sheet needs to be uploaded. I'm going to say by let's say by Friday. I'm going to give a little bit of leeway because we're getting used to this whole new format and this is going to be new. So by Friday, the 20th, March 20th, you need to have your chapter 6 text sheet uploaded to me somehow in Blackboard, Dropbox, send me pictures, something so that I can see it, I can grade it, and I can give you credit for that. So this Friday, March 20th, it's not always going to be a Friday. I'm going to try to get back to our normal like Monday, Wednesday due dates. But as we're easing into this online transition, it's going to be a little leeway this first week. So chapter 6 text sheet needs to be into me somehow electronically by Friday the 20th. Next, chapter 6 vocabulary quiz is going to be on there and available this coming Wednesday. It was initially going to be a partner quiz. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be basically an open study guide quiz. So it's going to be open study guide. So I'll just upload the quiz and you'll be able to type your answers in the quiz because you initially were going to be able to work with a partner. And so to me, the equivalent of that is at home on your own, but using your study guide. I'm not going to kind of put it in a time or anything like that. I'm just going to upload it as a Microsoft Word document. You'll type your question or responses into your questions and you'll Dropbox it to me. So I will have that available and open on Wednesday, and that'll be included in my Wednesday video. The last one I want to talk to you about, and I'll have to do a quick screen share again, I apologize about doing that over and over, is your mastery skills assessment. So at this point, if we go back into Blackboard under course content, I'm going to get into mastery skills. So we've already talked about now the reading process, vocabulary, topics and main ideas, supporting details, and main ideas, and now you will see drawing conclusions will be open. That is the one you should work on now. This is still going to be a requirement, everyone. This is still a key part of the class. So I know we're online, but this was always online. So this is still going to be part of the requirement. You still need to have these 9 skills done by the end of the semester. And I know some of you were still only sitting at like 1 or 2. So please be working on that. And I think what I'll do is I will even maybe do like a special video or 2, maybe even just getting into a couple of these skills and walking you through some of the answers just to kind of give you some of that extra support, since I know I've been sitting down with a couple of you and talking about them a little bit more in depth, and we can't do that now. So I think just be on the lookout for some special videos on mastery skills in particular. But in the meantime, you have these skills available to you. You can see on my screen now, there's still 3 skills that are hidden because we haven't talked about them yet, but the rest are all open and ready for you to be worked on. So I want to encourage you to get in there and start working on those as soon as possible. All right, I think that is it for today. So again, this video was for technical comp on Monday, March 16th. Keep conferring with my notebook here. And I apologize on the length of the video, but like I said, I'm trying to kind of replicate the best that I can what I would typically do if I were to see you in our classroom on a Monday or Wednesday. So, all right, email me, Blackboard message me, text message me. My phone number is 330-990-5405. Text me on that. Please don't just call it, because I said I have children. All my children are downstairs right now, somehow being quiet. But we can arrange a phone call if you text me and say, hey, can we talk sometime? And that way I can kind of set up an arrangement instead of just trying to answer the phone on the fly. All right, everyone. I hope you have a good day. And like I said, we'll get through this together. We'll work it out. And I'm here for you the best can be to help make sure that everyone's successful. See you on Wednesday.